In this video, I'll walk you through a creative approach to designing a website footer for a boxed website layout, and we're going to be achieving this using either free or premium resources depending on which you have at your disposal. Now, like I mentioned, free and premium resources. So if you don't have the pro version of Elementor, you can still be able to achieve this same design layout for free. For this demonstration, we're going to be using the pro version of Elementor, but first let's take a look at the plugin I mentioned earlier. Timestamps will be provided in the description box below, so you can just skip to the section that best suits you. Alright, starting off with the free resource, from our dashboard, let's hover over plugins and select add new. And then search for Elementor header and footer builder. And once this comes up, let's click on install and activate. Now that we've got that installed, we can either click on settings or hover over appearance and then select the plugin we just installed. So you just need to click on add new to start off building the website footer. And as the name suggests, it helps us build a custom Elementor header and footer outside that which comes with the theme by default. Okay, let's title this website footer. Next, we want to select the template type. And since we're designing a footer, let's select that. Display will be on the entire website, but you can get creative with this as to where you want this to appear on. We've got quite a number of options here, so let's just stick with entire website. As for the user role that gets to see the footer, we want everyone to see this, so let's do all. And for the option to enable layout for Elementor canvas template, this just means if we wanted to display the website footer on pages that have Elementor canvas enabled, we can just check this box. We want this to appear on our website, so I'm just going to leave that unchecked. Now once everything here checks out, let's update this and then click on edit with Elementor. And when this loads up, we can begin with our design. One thing I want to do first before I start out with anything will be changing the background color of this page to match that of my boxed website layouts. And since we have white as the main box section where our elements are, let's head back to our design template, select the settings icon, head over to style. For the background type, select classic. And for the color, change this to white. Now for each section you put in here, you want to repeat the same process as well. So if I added in a new section, I would want to change the background color in here to white before I begin adding in my widgets. So this will be the initial setup for the free plugin users. Now for the Elementor Pro users, let's hover over template and select theme builder. From here, you want to click on add new and select footer. We should open up our design canvas with this pop-up, displaying a number of already designed blocks we can select to start making customizations to. But since we're creating everything from scratch, let's close this up. Now let's title this template as website footer. To do that, let's click on this page settings icon and change the title to website footer. And now we can start out designing the website footer. But just before we get started, it should be obvious to those using the free version that the layout looks slightly different, but there will be no need worrying about that if the team is responsible for making adjustments to the layout. But in case the team is not responsible for that, I made a video earlier on designing a website with a box layout from scratch. I'll link that in the description box below, so you can take a look at how I aligned the website footer to match that of the website body. So you can make reference to that, but in essence, it's just matching the content width to that of the website body, and that should take care of things. Now on to designing the website footer itself. Alright guys, so starting out with our design, we're going to be making reference to our website footer from time to time just to make sure we're still on course with what we're doing. So coming back to our design canvas, the first thing we want to do will be adding in a new section. So I'm just going to click on this, and for the structure type, we want to select just one section. So I'm just going to click on this. Now for our content width, we want to make this 1200. And this should fall in line with the width of your website body content. So we have relatively everything in here set to the content width of 1200. So just have that in mind when you're making customizations to the content width. Coming back to our design canvas, the next thing we want to do will be adding in inner sections into this column. So I'm just going to head back to our element and I'm just going to drag an inner section into this column. Next, we want to duplicate this inner section while getting rid of one of the columns that is in here. So I'm just going to delete that. So just as we do have here, we have 4 columns at the top and just 1 column at the bottom. So let's start out making customizations to our copyright section. Heading back to our design canvas, I'm just going to drag in a text editor into this column, and I can just copy this. Head back to the design canvas, and I just need to paste that as a plain text. Now if we come back to our design footer, we can see we have this text darker than the rest. So we can just replicate that by highlighting all of this. And in here for our text editor, we just need to click on this drop down icon and then change this to black. And that should automatically reflect here. Moving on to making customizations to our copyright text, I can just come over to style. And for alignment, we want to center align this. Text editor, we want to change this to hashtag AFB0B9. Okay, so once that is done, we can move on to our typography. So you simply need to click on this pencil icon. And for the font family, let's make this Montserrat. I'm just going to click on that. And for the font size, let's make this 14 pixels. For the weight, let's make this 500. And for the line height, which will be this, let's make this 30 pixels. Now, if we take a look at this, we can see we have more spacing to the bottom than the top. And we can simply adjust that by adding paddings to the top. So for us to do that, we can simply head over to advanced. And for our padding on link of values, since we're adding just to the top, and I can just make this 20 pixels to the top. And now we can see this is evenly matched. Now the next thing we want to do will be adding in borders to our copyright section. So if we head back to our already designed website footer, we can see this border around our text. For us to do that, we simply need to click on this inner section, head over to style, select border, and for the border type, let's make this solid. And for the width, we want to make this one all round. But we want to get rid of just the border at the top. So I can simply unlink all values here and make this 0. Now if we close this up, we can see how this looks like. Opening this up, let's move on to making customizations to our color. So for the border color, let's make this hashtag BBF. Okay, so once that is done, let's move on to making customizations to the border radius. Now if we take a look at this, we can see we have the border radius set only to the bottom. So to do that, we can simply head over to our border radius, unlink all values here. So we're just going to leave the top and right as 0. And for the bottom, let's make this 5. And to the left, let's make this 5. Now if I close this up, we can see how this looks like. Now the next thing we want to do will be adding in margins at the bottom. We can see this is relatively close to the website bottom. So let's open this up, head over to advanced, and for the margin, let's unlink all values and we can make this 50 pixels to the bottom. Now if I close this up, we can see this looks much better. Opening this up, let's move on to making customizations to our top section. So the very first thing we'll have here will be our website logo. We have a text editor and we have social icons. For the free plugin users, you would want to use an image since the logo widget is not available on the free version of Elementor. Heading back to our design canvas, I can just head back to our widgets. And the first thing we want to put in here will be our website logo. But just before we do that, we can simply make customizations to our inner section by adding in a border there. And then start out adding in our widget into this inner section. So I'm just going to click on this, head over to style, and want to open up border. And for the border type, we want to change this to solid, just as we did for our bottom section. The border width, we want to make this 1 all round. And for the border color, just as we did for the bottom, we want to make this hashtag BBF. Once that is set, we are not going to be adding in any border radius to the top. So now if I close this up, we can see how that looks. But just because we haven't added any widget into the top column, this is how it's going to be looking like. So let's open this up and let's head over to our widget. And just like I mentioned, we have our website logo, a text editor, and then social icons. So the very first thing we want to do will be adding in our site logo into this column. So like I said, you would want to use an image instead of your website logo because the site logo is not available on the free version of Elementor. To do that, you can simply search for images. I can just drag this directly underneath this and then add in our image while changing the link to custom link. And obviously you want to put in your website logo in here. That is pretty much how you can go about it if you are using the free version of Elementor. Let's delete this. We are not really going to be making much customization to this aside shifting this a little bit to the left, because when we start adding in our widget, we would see this wouldn't be aligned to the left. Let's take, for example, I add in a text editor. We can see this is more aligned to the left than this. So let's make customization to our website logo. To do that, we can simply head over to advanced, and for our margin, we want to unlink all values. Instead of leaving this at 0, we can simply make this minus 25. So I can just put in 25 in there and add in a minus in front. All right, now let's leave this as is and we can start out making customizations to our text editor. So let's come back here. This is obviously an address. So you want to put in your website address in there, but you can still put in any text you want to in there. Let's head back to our design canvas and select our text editor. And I want to highlight all of this and paste this as a plain text. Now moving on to styling our text editor, I simply need to head over to style. Alignment, we want to align this to the left. And for our text color, let's make this hashtag 333E. Okay, so once that is done, let's move on to our typography. So I'm just going to click on this pencil icon. And for the font family, let's make this Montserrat. And now for our font size, let's make this 14 pixels. Font weight, let's leave this at 400. And that's pretty much all we need to do for our text editor. Now moving on to adding in our social icons. So I'm just going to search for social icon and drag that directly under our text editor. Now let's align this to the left, just as we did for our text editor. Now, if we head back here, we can see we have Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, and YouTube. So let's do that. For this, let's duplicate one of these. And instead of having Twitter here, we want to change the icon to LinkedIn. So I just need to click on that icon and let's filter by LinkedIn. Click on that and then select insert. And that should automatically appear here. Obviously, you want to put in links to your social handles. For the sake of this video, I'm just going to leave that as a hashtag. So let's just put all of that in here. And the rest we can leave as is. So for the shape, we can leave this to rounded, columns, auto. Now let's move on to styling this. So I just need to click on style. And for the color, we want to change this from official color to custom. Now for our primary color, let's make this transparent. So you just need to drag the second line in here all the way to the beginning. And for the secondary color, let's make this hashtag 6668. Okay, once that is done, for our icon size, let's make this 15. And for the spacing in between them, let's make this 16 as well. If we head back to our website, we can see we have borders surrounding each of our icons. To do that, let's head over to our design canvas. And for our border type, we want to change this from none to solid. And for the border width, let's make this 1.5. And want to repeat the same for our border radius. So I'm just going to make that 1.5 as well. Now for the color, we're going to leave that as is. Now if we hover over this, we can see we have our border disappearing and we don't want that. So we can simply come over to icon hover. And for the border color, let's click on this and want to change this to hashtag 3030. Now when we hover over this, we can see everything still remains as is. The next thing we want to do will be adding in our custom URL into this section. Let's head over to our widget. And the first thing we want to add in there will be a heading. So I'm just going to drag in a heading into this column. And if I head back to our designed website footer, we can see we have information in here. So let's change that. And if you wanted to add in links, you can just do that in here. The size, we want to leave this as default. HTML tag, we want to leave this at H2. For the alignment, we want to align this to the left. And now we can start on making customizations to our heading. So let's head over to style. And for the text color, let's change this to hashtag 202332. Okay, so once that is done, let's move on to typography. So I'm just going to click on this pencil icon. And for the font family, let's make this Montserrat. And for our font size, let's make this 16 pixels. Font width, we're just going to leave this at 600. Now the next thing we want to do will be adding in an icon list. Head over to our widget and we want to search for icon list. And now I just need to drag this directly underneath our information in here. And now we can start making customizations to this. The first thing I want to do in here will be deleting the last two icon lists. So I'm just going to delete them both. And now we can start out with this, and then we can just duplicate that to have precisely what we have in here. So heading back to our design canvas, I simply need to delete this icon because we don't have that in here. And for the first icon list, we have this set to FAQs. And obviously you want to add in links to your custom URLs. For the sake of this video, we're just going to stick with hashtag, and I just need to put that in there. And now we can start out duplicating this to put in our custom URLs. So I'm just going to duplicate this 3 more times. And as we have here, we have about us, contact us, and privacy policy. So let's do that real quick. Okay, so once we've added in our text, let's move on to styling our icon list. So I just need to close this up, and for apply link on, we want to leave this to full width. Now let's move on to style. And for the space between, let's make this 18. Alignment, we want to leave this to the left, and we want to make sure to leave this divider turned off because it's not necessary. So I'm just going to leave that turned off. And for our icon, since we don't have any icon here, we just need to skip this option. And let's move on to our text. Now for the text color, let's change this to 9A, 9C, A7. Okay, so once that is done, let's move on to our hover. So I want to make slight adjustment to this. So whenever a user hovers over this, there's a little bit of effect applied to that. For us to do that, we can simply click on this box icon for hover, and we can simply change this to hashtag 323233. Okay, so when we hover over this, we can see how that changes. Now for the typography, click on this pencil icon. And for the font family, we're sticking with Montserrat. For the font size, we're going to make this 14. And for the font weight, let's make this 500. Now that's pretty much all we need to do in here. We can simply duplicate this column 2 more times and then fill in our information in there. So let's duplicate this 2 more times. And now I can start filling in our information here. For the second line, we have my account and we have custom links, and we have order, my account, logout, and lost password. So I'm just going to fast pace putting in this information just to save your time. All right, now once we're done filling in our information, the next thing we want to do will be adding in borders in between our columns. Heading back to our design canvas, we are going to start out with this. So I'm just going to click on this column, head over to style, select border, and for the border type, let's make this solid. And since we just want the border set to the left and right, we can just unlink all values here. We can add in 1 border to the right and also 1 border to the left. Now if I close this up, we can see how this looks like. Opening this up, let's click on our first column, head over to border, and for the border color, let's change this to hashtag BBF. Now if I close this up, we can see how this looks like. Now the next thing we want to do will be adding in another border directly in between our 3rd and 4th column. So I just need to open this up, click on the 3rd column, head over to style, open up border, and for the border type, let's change this to solid. And since we just want this set to the right, I can just unlink all values here and then add in 1 to the right. And for the border color, same as we did in here, let's change this to hashtag BBF. All right, now if I close this up, we can see how this looks like. Now, the next thing we want to do will be adding in paddings, just as we do have here. We have paddings surrounding our widgets. Let's head over to our design canvas. And let's start out with our first column. So I'm just going to click on that, head over to advanced. And for the padding, let's make this 50 pixels all around. And same goes for other columns. Let's click on the second, advanced, make this 50 pixels. The third, head over to advanced, make this 50 pixels as well. And lastly, for the fourth column, let's head over to advanced and make this 50 pixels as well. And with that, we should have completed designing the website footer. Now let's move on to making customizations to our media endpoints. Now for us to do that, we can simply select responsive mode, and I just need to click on tablet, and we can see how this looks like on tablet. Now the very first thing we want to do in here for our tablet responsiveness will be changing this first column to 100%. So I can simply click on it, head over to layout, and for the column width, let's make this 100%. We can start out making customizations to this just to make everything look much more presentable. So I can simply start out with our logo, but in the case where you're using the free plugin, you would want to select your images. And in here for our margin, where we have the left set to -25, we can simply make this 0. So I can just make that 0 to make everything look much more presentable, other than it being aligned to the left. So I can just click on this, head over to content, and for the alignment, make this center instead of left. And same goes for our text editor and social icons. For alignment, center. For the social icons, head over to content. And for alignment, we want to make this center as well. Now, one thing we could do in here will be reducing the size of our site logo. So I can just click on that, head over to style. And for our max width, we could change this to 40 or 45%, and we can see how this looks like. Now, the next thing we want to do will be adding in a border directly underneath this. Now, if I close this up, we can see how this looks like. So we want to add in a border directly underneath this, our first column. Now for us to do that, we can simply click on this column, head over to style, open up border. And for the border type, let's change this to solid. And since we just want it set to the bottom, I can simply unlink all values here and then make this 1 to the bottom. Now for our border color, just as we did for our previous borders, we want to make this hashtag #BF. Okay, now if I close this up, we can see how this looks like. Now the next thing I want to do in here will be aligning these 3 columns on the same row. So let's open this up. And since we have this set to 100, we can just divide 100 by 3 columns. Let's say 100 divided by 3. That should give us 33.3. So I can just click on our first column, head over to layout, and for the column width, let's make this 33.3. Now let's copy this, and we can just repeat the same in here. So layout, content width, paste that in there, and same for the third column, layout, and for our column width, let's make this 33.3. Now if I close this up, we can see how this looks like. And pretty much everything here looks good, except our border in here, which is doubled. So I can just open this up, select this column, head over to style, open up border, and want to get rid of the border to the left. So I can just open this up, set this to 1, and want to leave the left to 0. Now if I close this up, we can see everything here looks pretty good. And that should wrap things up for the responsiveness on tablets. We could still make customizations here by reducing our widgets. We could reduce the font size of our text. Instead of it being at 16, we could make this 15. And we could repeat the same in here. So head over to style, typography, make this 15. Same goes for our custom link, style, typography, make this 15. And we could still repeat the same in here. So let's head over to text, typography. Instead of it being at 14, we could make this 13. And also repeat the same for our second and third column. So let's open this up, make this 13 as well. And lastly, for the third column, open up text, typography, let's make this 13 pixels. Okay. Once we're done with that, we could still make customizations to this by reducing the padding which we added earlier on, which is set to 50. So instead of it being at 50, we could make that 40 pixels. So let's head over to advanced. Now we could make this 40 pixels. And we could repeat the same in here. Advanced, make this 40 pixels. Same goes for the fourth column. Advanced, and we could make this 40 pixels. So that sums it up for the responsiveness on tablet. Now, whenever you make customizations to any endpoint, it's always wise to go back to the previous endpoint and see the changes that has been made to that. Now we can see because of the customizations we did here, this particular column has been affected. But we are going to be coming back to this because we still have the mobile responsiveness to make customizations to. So let's click on the mobile responsiveness, and pretty much everything in here looks good, but we could still make customizations to it. So for our site logo, we could change the max width to 100%. Okay. Now the next thing we want to do will be aligning the second and third column on the same row. So I can simply click on this, head over to style, and instead of the column width set to 100, we can make this 50. Same goes for this. So I just need to click on that, head over to layout, and the column width, let's make this 50%. And we can see how that looks like. So just as we did for our tablet responsiveness, we could still reduce our content in here while also reducing the paddings, which are set to 50 initially. So I can just click on this column, head over to advanced, and instead of this set to 40, we could reduce this by half, which was 50 before. We could reduce this to 25 pixels. Same goes for the second column, head over to advanced. We could make this 25. And we can see this looks much more better. Now, if I close this up, we can see how this looks like. So we want to add in a border directly underneath these two columns. And we can simply do that using this fourth column. So I just need to open this up, select the fourth column, head over to style, open up border. And for the border type, let's change this to solid. And since we just want a border to the top, I can just unlink all values and add in just one border width to the top. And for the color, just as we did for our previous colors, we want to make this hashtag BBF. Okay, now if I close this up, we can see how this looks like. Now the next thing we want to do in here will be aligning this to the middle. Opening this up, select our heading, head over to content, and for alignment, let's center align this. Same goes for our icon list. For alignment, let's center align this, and we can see how this looks like. And now if I close this up, we can see pretty much everything looks good in here, except the double border in here. So I can just open this up, select this column, head over to style, open up border, and for our border width, let's get rid of the width to the right. So I can just put in a 0 around, and we can see how this looks like. So that's pretty much all we need to do in here for our mobile responsiveness. Now let's move on to our tablet responsiveness. So just as we did while we're making customizations to this affected the desktop responsiveness. It also applies for the mobile responsiveness affecting the tablet responsiveness. So let's open this up and get rid of the border on our third column. So I just need to click on this column, head over to border, and I want to set this to 0 around. Now if I close this up, we can see how this looks. Now let's head over to our desktop responsiveness. So I just need to open this up, select the fourth column, and in here I want to make this 0 around. Same goes for this column, select the first column, head over to border, and for the width, let's make this 0 around. Now if I close this up, we can see how this looks like. And now if I select the tablet responsiveness, everything checks out here. Same goes for the mobile responsiveness. So all that is left is conditioning this to appear on the entire website. So I can just open up the design editor, select publish, and condition this to appear on the entire website, and then save and close. Now for the free plugin users, you simply need to click on publish, and that should automatically save your website footer to appear on the entire website. Now for those that would like to see an almost similar version of this website footer for Boxed website, links will be provided in the description box below when it gets uploaded. You could show support by giving this video a like so this video spreads out to more persons. Also consider subscribing if you would like to see more content like this one. Thank you so much for watching. and I will see you in the next one.